Good day. Welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. The government's attitude is akin to the children's game of hot potatoes when it comes to accepting responsibility for the billion-dollar review of expenses to develop the offshore oil and gas resources in the Stabroek Block. Though on a much grander scale, the elected officials seem unwilling to accept the duty of conducting this process, as on one hand, Vice President Bharat Jagdeo, who is in charge of the petroleum sector and functions as Minister of Finance in the shadows, directed Kaieteur to speak with Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat concerning the audits. At his last press conference, held on March 5th, we asked the Vice President to say when the audits for the third and fourth ExxonMobil projects, Payara and Yellowtail, respectively, will be conducted, to which he responded, and I quote, "I don't know. Ask Vic." When we reached out to the minister on Friday, however, his position was that the Vice President had already addressed the subject. Kaieteur, however, informed the minister that Jagdeo had directed the issue pertaining to the Payara and Yellowtail audits to him, to which he did not respond. The production sharing agreement signed between the government and the oil company allows for audits to be conducted within 2 years after each calendar year. Notably, the Payara project was approved by the administration on September 30th, 2020, paving the way for Exxon to commence investments to develop the third oil project. This means that more than 2 years have already elapsed and there is no word from the government on auditing these bills. The Payara project is pegged at $9 billion. This is more than 2 times this year's national budget, which was approved to the tune of $3.9 billion. Or in Guyana dollars, 781 billion. We had reported that if the 2-year deadline as prescribed in the Stabroek Block Agreement passes and Guyana fails to audit ExxonMobil's subsidiary cost recovery bill, the country has no choice but to allow the oil company to recover $9 billion for its Payara development project in the Stabroek Block without making any objection. Meanwhile, University of the West Indies lecturer and Jamaican economist Dr. Damian King fears that Guyana could fall victim to the resource curse, citing that the country lacks strong institutions to prevent corruption. Dr. King made those comments during an interview with Jamaican Observer, a daily newspaper published in Kingston. According to the article, King stated that even as Guyana moves deeper in developing its oil and gas finds, the country lacks strong institutions to prevent corruption. The media entity reported that King is convinced that political parties will soon start to squabble over the spoils to the detriment of the country. King cited that the oil revenues could cause corruption to increase in the country and make it worse off than it was before accessing the wealth. Dr. King's comment comes at a time when the government of Guyana is pushing ExxonMobil to accelerate its exploration and production of the country's oil and gas resources, all while knowing that the country has been operating with archaic petroleum laws. And as Guyanese and the rest of the world continue to keep an eye on the global financial implications of the failure of several international banking institutions in light of globalization and ripple effects, it is important to note that the general reserves held at Guyana's central bank also continues to dwindle. Bank of Guyana, in its most recent official report on its statement of assets and liabilities, reflects that the general reserves of cash held at that institution is $12.1 billion in the red. That figure represents an increase over the $9.2 billion overdraft that was reported last month by the bank. We had reported that by the middle of last year, the reserves were actually at minus $6.7 billion. As such, it would mean that between the middle of last year and the first 3 months of this year, approximately 9 months, the overdraft of the general reserves at Bank of Guyana has in fact doubled. Meanwhile, as questions continue to linger over the government's decision to sole source a German-based company to produce an integrated electronic national identification system and cards that will be costing taxpayers $34 million, former ambassador Dr. Shamir Ali has called on President Ali to terminate the contract. Dr. Ali, a former Guyana ambassador to Kuwait and former first alternate governor, Islamic Development Bank, disclosed that he quoted for 1 million polycarbonate chip cards in the industry and that the price tag is between 12 million to 17 million US, which is half the price the government signed a contract for with Viridis Identity Solutions. We had reported that the deal was facilitated by the United Arab Emirates Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed Al Maktoum. And moving on. A fire at Lot 101 3rd Street Agricola, East Bank, Demerara on Sunday claimed the life of a 45-year-old man and left 13 persons homeless. The dead man has been identified as Kevin Trotman, and according to information received from the Guyana Fire Service, the fire occurred around 14 hours 58 and destroyed 2 houses. Trotman died in one of the houses. The fire service said that a child was playing with matches that ignited a full mattress and caused the fire to spread quickly throughout the building. The fire service advised citizens to exercise caution and follow safety measures to avoid home fires. Additionally, the service said that children should be educated on the dangers of fire starters, these are matches and lighters and such, and warned about their use. You're listening to Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 and 99.5 FM. This is your news at noon. We'll return after the break.
Not a single bar of service.
Not with us. Digicel officially has the best mobile coverage in Guyana, be it in Aishalton or in Etteringban. We got you covered. Digicel, better together.
Welcome back. A Stanleytown, West Bank, Demerara man died on Saturday after a car drove over him while he was lying on the Stanleytown public road. Dead is Kelston Ferreira. According to the police, the accident occurred just around 22 hours 30 that day and involved a hire car which was driven by Christophe Polydor, a 33-year-old man of Bell West housing scheme. Information reaching the police revealed that the car was proceeding east along the northern side of the road, where the left side front wheel ran over Ferreira, who was reportedly lying on the northern side. It is believed that he was under the influence of alcohol. And Article 13, a civil society group along with other individual activists, has joined the call for the president to appoint a new environmental assessment board free from conflicts of interest. In a statement yesterday, the group, which comprises members including attorney-at-law Christopher Ram, outlined that the functions of the Environmental Assessment Board shall be to conduct public hearings into all appeals submitted to it and make recommendations to the Environmental Protection Agency. Article 13 said it is important to note that the board is a body that is independent of the EPA and designated to conduct public hearings into such appeals to either confirm or set aside the EPA's decision. The board also serves as a review body for environmental impact assessments in order to make a recommendation on whether a project should be approved or not. After the hearing, the board takes all arguments into consideration and renders a decision, the group added. And Latin America and the Caribbean must urgently make progress in the energy transition with greater production of renewable energy, universalizing access to energy, and increasing energy efficiency, among other measures, according to the authorities and experts gathered last week at ECLAC's headquarters in Santiago, Chile. The high-level expert workshop for the special report on Latin America of the IEA's World Energy Outlook 2023 took place on March 16th to 17th to gather information on the region's energy-related needs and opportunities in order to prepare a special report, the WEO 2023 Latin America Energy Outlook, which will be included in the next edition of the annual report prepared by the International Energy Agency. And we wrap things up with a little bluntness by turning the pages of today's Kaieteur News to page 7. Incestuous relationships. Today we invite our fellow citizens to study what is before them. We encourage them to take a slow, careful look at our politicians, especially when they are in government, and determine for themselves if those leading the way do not possess deep, dark secrets. Their secrets are so dark that they have a sheen about them that glows and reveals so much about the dirty relationships that they have cultivated, to the shame, horror, and loss of Guyanese. Do a simple, common sense study of our government's past and present, and what is observed over and over are secrecies. Incestuous relations force people to engage in cover-up actions so that the evidence of their crimes do not track back to them. And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
Kaieteur Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Guyana, join me on the Glenn Lal Show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:20 p.m. and a rebroadcast at 11 a.m. The Glenn Lal Show only on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Namaste, guys.